저희 2019년 컨스트럭션 비전 포럼 국제세미나를 시작하겠습니다. 바쁘신 와중에도 오늘 컨스트럭션 비전 포럼 국제세미나에 참석해 주신 내빈 여러분께 진심으로 감사드립니다. 먼저 오늘 사회를 맡은 한양대학교 건축학부 안용환 교수입니다. 먼저 개회사가 있겠습니다. 개회사는 컨스트럭션 비전 포럼 건설 포럼 공동대표이신 한미글로벌 부회장님이신 한찬건 부회장님 대표님께서 개회사를 하도록 하겠습니다. 큰 박수로 맞아주시면 감사하겠습니다.
이게 인터내셔널 세미나이기 때문에 개회사를 영어로 좀 준비해서 하겠습니다. Welcome, Honorable General Director Sung-Hae Lee, Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, His Excellency Simon Smith, the British Ambassador for Korea, and all the attendees, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am very delighted to announce that Construction Vision Forum is co-hosting this international seminar with Constructing Excellence, an innovative organization in the United Kingdom. I would also like to extend my appreciation to the British Embassy and Korean Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, who have managed to commit to our seminar. In addition, I am thankful for Mr. Mark Richard from Turner & Townsend, Mr. Ricky Tsui from Arab, and Mr. Donwood from Tsui, who will be presenter and panel according to the topic for us today. Also, thanks to Professor Yong-Han An from the Hanyang University for being the chairperson today, and Professor Hans Kim from Sejong University for taking the role as a moderator. The subject for this year's international seminar is the direction of digital innovation for future construction, which has a significant meaning to us. On April of this year, Construction Vision Forum, Hanmi-Global, and Constructing Excellence signed the Memorandum of Understanding between Korea and UK that promises to collaborate for the improvement of a construction industry in both nations. And based on the MOU, we are able to co-host this international seminar today. Furthermore, Construction Vision Forum and Hanmi Global, the first Korean co-organization joining Tsui, has become the 10th affiliated organization of Tsui's International Alliance. And Construction Vision Forum and Hanmi Global will be the responsible for Tsui's operations in Korea. In the wake of the recent fourth industrial revolution and digital transformation, changes in the way of working in order to acquire competitiveness in the global construction market is essential. Nevertheless, Korean construction companies are still unable to identify appropriate method of strategies. On the other hand, the UK's construction stakeholders are consistently pursuing digital transformation and implemented appropriate technology as necessary. And therefore, the Construction Vision Forum has staged this floor to learn and benchmark the UK's construction industry and digital transformation so that we can seek our directivity through discussion in terms of competitiveness in the future construction market. In the past, Construction Vision Forum had hosted numerous seminars and invited various domestic and international experts. Usually, we have regular meetings and 2 seminars, domestic seminar in spring and international seminar in the fall. Construction Vision Forum published its work by assessing the present and suggesting the future. As an opinion leader of the construction industry, we plan to continue to move forward with utmost effort. Thanking you, Constructing Excellence, for co-hosting this seminar, creating an opportunity to discuss the important topic, and also our guest speakers, sponsors, and employees, as well as members of Construction Vision Forum, who have successfully achieved in making this happen. Once again, I welcome you all to this seminar and hope today will present your valuable time. Thanks, and God bless you.
For the next, there will be congratulatory speech by Hyun-mi Kim, the Minister of Land and Infrastructure and Transportation. She cannot come to this forum. Because of that, there will be Sung-hae Lee from on the behalf of Hyun-mi Kim from the Minister of Land and Infrastructure and Transportation. Please give a big applause to him.
예, 국토교통부 건설정책국장입니다. 오늘 장관님께서 스마트 건설과 관련된 이런 의미 있는 국제 행사에 꼭 참석하시려고 했는데 지금 캐나다에서 열리고 있는 아이카오 이사국 선출 때문에 지금 기묘하게 해외 출장에 가시는 바람에 제가 우리 장관님을 대신해서 축하하기 위해서 이 자리에 섰습니다. 건설산업비전 국제포럼 국제세미나를 진심으로 축하드립니다. 우선 뜻깊은 자리를 마련해 주신 한찬건 한미글로벌 부회장님을 비롯한 관계자 여러분께 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 아울러 오늘 행사를 빛내주시기 위해서 참석하신 사이먼 스미스 주한영국대사님께도 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 특히 건설산업의 미래에 대해서 발표와 토론을 위해 영국에서 직접 와주신 발표자 여러분들께도 진심으로 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 오늘 세미나는 디지털 시대의 건설산업에 대하여 논의하는 자리가 되겠습니다. 그동안 건설산업은 도로, 철도, 항만, 공항과 같은 국가 기반 시설을 만들어 왔고 이를 통해서 다른 산업의 발전을 이끌어 왔습니다. 하지만 4차 산업혁명을 거치면서 건설산업이 디지털 기술을 받아들이는 데 있어서 다른 산업에 비해서 속도가 더딘 것도 사실이라고 할 수 있겠습니다. 하지만 스마트 건설 기술은 세계 건설 기술 시장에서 불가피한 선택이 되어가고 있습니다. 해외 선진국들은 사물 인터넷이나 빅데이터 등 첨단 기술을 활용한 건설 신산업을 집중 육성하고 이를 통해서 세계 시장을 주도해 나가고 있습니다. 특히 오늘 발표의 주요 사례인 영국과 같은 경우는 이미 2016년부터 선도적으로 정부 차원에서 건설 산업의 스마트화를 지원해 오고 있는 것으로 알고 있습니다. 우리 역시 건설 산업의 경쟁력을 확보하고 생산성을 높이기 위해서 혁신적인 노력을 기울이고 있습니다. 정부는 작년에 건설 산업 혁신 방안과 스마트 건설 기술 로드맵을 연달아 발표한 바 있습니다. 그동안 건설 산업의 기술 발전을 막아왔던 업역 규제를 철폐하고 디지털 기술을 접목한 스마트 건설 기술을 전면적으로 지원하여 경쟁력을 높이고자 합니다. 우선 스마트 건설 기술 개발을 위해서 R&D 사업으로 5년간 2천억 원을 투자할 예정이고요. 시설물의 스마트 유지관리 기술 개발을 위한 1,600억 원 규모의 후속 R&D도 추진하고 있습니다. 건설공사의 모든 과정에 스마트 기술을 시범적으로 적용하는 다양한 사업도 진행하고 있습니다. BIM 설계나 드론 측량, 장비 자동화, IoT 기술을 활용한 안전관리 등 스마트 신기술을 시범 적용하는 사업 26건을 추진하고 있습니다. 또 스마트 건설기술 지원센터를 설치하여 다양한 스마트 기술을 활용한 건설 벤처 기업을 지원하고 정부에서 보유하고 있는 도로, 하천 등 건설 정보 빅데이터를 민간 사업에서 활용할 수 있도록 전면 공개한 바 있습니다. 또한 11월 27일부터 3일간 한국의 모든 스마트 건설 기술을 집대성해서 전시회를 개최할 예정입니다. 여기에 참석하신 많은 분들의 적극적인 참여를 부탁드리는 바입니다. 정부는 앞으로도 스마트 건설 기술을 지원하는 정책을 더욱 적극적으로 펼쳐내 나갈 계획입니다. 오늘 이 자리에는 건설기술 혁신을 이끌어갈 여러 주체들이 한데 모인 만큼 앞선 사례들을 함께 연구하고 우리 건설산업의 스마트 기술 확산과 같은 혁신 방안을 모색하는 좋은 계기가 될 것으로 기대합니다. 참석하신 모든 분들께 다시 한번 감사의 말씀을 드리며 항상 행복하시고 건강하시기를 기원합니다. 감사합니다.
The second congratulatory speech by Simon Smith, the UK ambassador. Please give a big applause to him.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm delighted to be able to join you at the opening of today's event on the direction of digital innovation for future construction. I'd very much like to thank the co-hosts, Construction Vision Forum and Constructing Excellence, for inviting me to speak today. I wanted to start by offering my congratulations to Construction Vision Forum and Constructing Excellence on the signing of their Memorandum of Understanding that sets out how they plan to collaborate and share knowledge to support the development of the construction sectors in the UK and in Korea. And of course, as British Ambassador to the Republic of Korea, it's always a pleasure to me to see our two countries come together to collaborate in ways that bring benefits to us all. In the case of construction, few other sectors have such an ability to impact on our country's economies and societies, or has the potential to provide such large numbers of high-skilled and well-paid jobs. In the UK, for instance, construction contributed £142 billion of value to the UK economy in 2017 and employed 3.2 million people, or 9% of the UK workforce. The strategic value of the construction sector to the UK economy means it has a valuable role to play in delivering the United Kingdom's ambitious modern-day industrial strategy, a strategy which seeks to boost productivity by backing businesses to create good jobs and increase the earning power of people throughout the UK with investment in skills, industries and infrastructure. As part of our industrial strategy in July 2018, the UK government, working in partnership with the Construction Leadership Council and the wider industry, launched the Construction Sector Deal with the aim of delivering a substantial improvement in the productivity growth of the construction sector in the coming years. The Construction Sector Deal aims to do this by increasing the use of digital and off-site manufacturing technologies, increasing the number of apprentices and investment in training and retraining, and improving payment and contractual practices to strengthen supply chains in the UK. And 1 year on since the launch of the sector deal, we've delivered significant progress in implementing the commitments made, and these include a £72 million investment to establish a construction innovation hub that will focus on developing standardized designs, platforms, components and skills to deliver the next generation of buildings and ensure that the UK remains the world leader in digital construction. It includes working with the Construction Industry Training Board and large and small firms in the sector to develop a strategy to ensure the construction sector is able to attract, recruit and retain the skilled workforce that it needs for the future. And it includes the launch of the first phase of a new pre-qualification system designed to reduce inefficiencies that are costing the construction industry in the UK up to £1 billion every year. Now, underpinning the transformation of our construction sector is a UK government commitment to invest up to £170 million through our Transforming Construction programme to develop and commercialise the digital and off-site manufacturing technologies to produce safe, energy-efficient buildings that perform better throughout their entire life cycle. And this programme will support industry in adopting technologies that will enable infrastructure and buildings to be constructed 50% faster, 33% cheaper, and with 50% lower lifetime carbon emissions. So our industrial strategy and the construction sector deal comes at a time when we are embarking on one of the greatest construction programs in our history, from delivering more homes that people can afford to major infrastructure projects such as Crossrail and the third runway at Heathrow Airport. This infrastructure pipeline represents more than £600 billion of spending over the next decade, including at least £44 billion for housing. And the pace of this change and the size of the opportunity will require private sector finance to deliver many of these projects, and I hope that they will be of interest to Korean investors. Similarly, I hope that world-class expertise that the UK construction sector is developing in the use of digital technologies such as building information modelling will be of interest to the Korean construction sector. And in this respect, I hope today's seminar will lead to further opportunities for collaboration and business between the Korean and the UK construction sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the UK Ambassador Simon Smith. For the next, so we can have the first keynote speech by Mark Richard, Partners and Managing Director, Turner and Townsend. And he will talk about the construction industry is often described as a broken, what will fix it, and what could the future looks like. Please give the big applause. 강연자에 대해서 간단하게 소개해 드리도록 하겠습니다. 마크 리차드는 2000년부터 TNT에서 근무하고 있으며 건설 관련 분야에서 약 25년의 경력을 갖고 있습니다. 인도, 영국 다양한 프로젝트 경험을 갖고 있으며 현재는 싱가포르, 홍콩에서 TNT의 매니징 디렉터로 일을 하고 있습니다. 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
Thank you. And thank you to Vice Chairman Han and to the Vice Minister for standing in and very well articulating the vision for the government plans over the next few years, and they do sound very ambitious, so that's great to hear in terms of driving that. Ambassador, distinguished guests, and of course delegates, thank you for being here today and giving me the opportunity to share some thoughts with you. I think I'd take the prize, first of all, for having the longest title of any presentation today, so I'm winning on that stake to start off with. The reason I put that there is because I think the billing for this has been all around digital, and I wanted to take it beyond just digital because digital is a facilitator for lots of other things. And so the title there in terms of the construction industry is broken. Doesn't mean that it's not working because it is doing some great things, but it means that it's on the verge of revolution, and I think someone's already mentioned it as the fourth revolution. And so that's going to really be the topic of my talk today. But beyond that, I come at this from a sort of practitioner's point of view, and I'm very well reminded that we have lots of learned gentlemen in the room, lots of scholars who will be coming at this in terms of the theoretical side of what we are trying to do in the industry. So my view is to sort of set the scene, I suppose, in terms of the practitioner's view of that, and let those that know much better than me explain the sort of technology to you much better than I probably can. So what I will go through with today, what I'll cover is a sort of global context, just as a bit of an introduction. Rather than focus on what the threats are and the things being broken, is if there are problems, that usually gives opportunities. So looking then at the opportunities, why do we need to change is the other question. People don't really like change generally, so why do we need to change? And effectively, those changes are happening. So what are the changes we're seeing? And then I was just going to outline for you at the end some of our priorities as a business as to what we're looking at in terms of the new technologies that are emerging, and effectively then end with the new reality. Fortunately, you won't have to put up with me speaking the whole time. I have 3 very short videos to break up my session, so even if you can't understand everything I'm saying, hopefully visually it will give you an idea of the sort of things that we're talking about and a vision for what the future might look like in our construction industry. So I think, as has already been mentioned by the Ambassador, the world is a faster changing place than it ever has been before. We're all aware of the sort of energy model and the need to reduce carbon. Population is growing. There are finite resources and we are depleting them very fast. We expect 3 million more middle-class consumers by 2030. And this is all, of course, impacting the way we work, the way we interact with people, and the way we play, the things we do with our leisure time. And the built environment touches all aspects of our daily lives, and we can't ignore it. So the opportunity, if by 2030 the construction industry is set to grow by 80%, just think about the opportunity that provides for us. We need more infrastructure to connect people. We need buildings to live in. They may be different buildings than we've got today. We may work in different ways in the future. We may learn in different ways. We may cure people in different ways. They will all need different types of building, and we need to advance. We need clean energy and power to advance the world. We cannot continue burning what we have. We've got to achieve a level of carbon neutrality. And as has been said, we need faster, smarter and more sustainable buildings. And I always like it when I hear these figures of 50%, 30% and so on. As a practitioner, I sometimes think, how are we going to achieve that? But we just have to achieve it. And actually, I don't think it's so much in the process. I think it's more in the process of how we do things than the technology we use. I think that's where the big opportunity lies for me. So in terms of the need for change, demand more for less, I think for those who are other practitioners in the room or contractors, consultants, you will know our clients are always demanding more for less. There are higher aspirations. As I said, the current construction model is fragmented and ineffectual. Maintaining the status quo just isn't acceptable anymore. It just will not do. We're on a journey that we can't come back from. So a new approach to attracting investment and then delivering that investment into real estate is part of the solution to this problem. In terms of the need for change, we often compare ourselves to manufacturing, and there is a stark contrast, as you can see here, although these figures are slightly old now, but it just shows you the gap that's ever widening. We are, if anything, almost going backwards if you measure relative productivity of the workers in our industry and the value that they're adding as opposed to those in manufacturing. They're a picture of the sort of construction process in the 19th century, not vastly different from what you'd see today, is it really? Quite depressing. So, manufacturing principles, they've got to be the way forward. How can we manufacture buildings away from construction sites? Again, production line, in the 19th century in automotive. We have these things now. There are production lines for buildings. We can build buildings in panel form today. We can build volumetric buildings today. But the majority of construction that you still see around is people carrying bricks, placing concrete on site, fixing steel, putting formwork in, which is then removed, temporary works. And then how many of you have walked past a construction site and you hear the sound of a jackhammer going, and it's a brand new construction site? What are they doing? They're already taking it back down again because they've made some error somewhere. We've got to remove this out of our construction industry. Sustainability. I'm sure Don will touch on sustainability later, but in terms of built environment, it accounts for 40% of global carbon emissions. So when we want to talk about getting to be carbon neutral, the construction industry has a massive role to play. So what can be done? Reducing waste in the design and construction process. And this is where we start to touch on digital. People, no doubt in the room, will have heard about BIM. Effectively, with BIM modelling, we can start to build our buildings in computers before we build them for real on site, and cut out the unnecessary waste by design errors and clashes. We can design with the full life in mind. We all know generally that if you pay more, you get a better product, and therefore making that capital investment is far better than keep making investments in repairs and maintenance over the life cycle of the building. Implementing global standards to enable manufacturing to come together so that one component fits with another component. Maximising land use to reduce deforestation. You can drive around any town or city and find vacant sites, vacant buildings. We must force people to use these first before using our valuable land assets. And new conditions for funding and the support of sustainable properties. Let's drive people to get rewarded for sustainable developments. It rewards those who live in those developments. On a very simple level, if you're in an apartment which has got energy efficiency, your utility bills every month are going to be less. It's very tangible, all of this stuff. So, maximising land use. You can see just from those photographs, would you not prefer the one on the right as opposed to the one on the left? And the one on the left will soon be covered with more concrete and less ability for water to drain from the soils, causing further erosion, pollution in our water and ecosystems. So we move on now to the technology part and probably the bit that this seminar is billed for in terms of embracing technology and how that can make a change. Technology offers obviously boundless opportunities, and we've seen it in many parts of our world. I'm sure you've all got a mobile phone in your pocket. Who would have thought 20, 25 years ago that you could find every piece of information you ever needed, you could find anywhere to go in the world, all in your pocket. More powerful probably than the first computer that was ever built, more powerful than some of the computers that were used to put man on the moon, and it's in your pocket. So, what does BIM do? I said it reduces construction by building it first in digital format and then building it finally in reality. It creates truly smart buildings. So if we know that people aren't in this room, we don't need to run the air conditioning system. If you've got a BIM model of that, you can model things out. You can create what is starting to be termed as the digital twin. So everything that exists physically exists in a digital format. Increase the occupancy rates. Obviously, if we know when people are at desks and we know that real time, we need less desk space. We can share desks. We can make the most efficient use of the assets that we've got. I'm not going to spend long on this slide because I'm sure others, as I say, more qualified than I am, are going to talk about digital in much more detail. But this is just really an introduction and I have a short video to play talking or explaining what the digital twin would do. But effectively, as I've said, we first of all start by creating a digital model of what we're going to build physically. And we build that up as time goes, so that everything that we're putting on into the physical world is mirrored in a digital environment. But at some point that swaps over. So then we start feeding the digital model back from the real world. So every time you turn on the tap and you see water coming out, the water meter is managing that and recording that data in the digital environment to know that the pumps that are operating are soon going to wear out because we know they do so many thousand hours of operation before they go. The light fittings have been on for this amount of time. They will need retubing, refitting. And so we move to this idea that the whole of our buildings can be managed in a smart and efficient way. Rather than me talk more on that, let me just play this short video now, which will give you an insight, hopefully, to the future and what it could look like.
Show me my properties near Michigan. Here's what I found. Show all of my properties.
Showing all of your properties.
So, while that looks very futuristic, all of that technology exists. So I suppose the question is how soon does this become a reality for everybody rather than just a few? And that's why I think when people talk about this revolution, I'm absolutely convinced we are on the verge of a revolution. But whether it is in the sort of 2 years, 5 years or 10 years horizon till we get to this stage of sophistication, which you would see as a matter of course, I think, if you were in the automotive industry. To me, that's when the revolution will have happened, and no doubt we'll build on from there. But at the moment, I think we have all of the parts. We don't quite have it joined up around all of our industry. Just coming on then to machine learning. Again, I've got another short video on machine learning, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But what we're trying to do is to move from the sort of supervised learning model where we have to take control of things, where effectively the machine learns human intelligence and is able to act on its own behalf. So again, I'll play a short video which just shows you how this might interact with what we're doing at the moment. I think we're all familiar with drones now. They get lots of publicity. And this is just how this technology can be used. And again, as you could probably imagine, it's a little bit far-fetched here, but it will develop and it will be used for the sort of applications that you'll see it in terms of measuring here the advancement of the work on site. So as it goes through, it's assessing where things should be. It's giving you the real-time production rates. It will spot if something's not where it should be. So it's comparing them to its digital model and saying, is reality matching my digital world? And making those assessments all of the time. So there we go, error, out of tolerance, it's spotted something, that normally would be an engineer walking around with a drawing, checking dimensions. It's doing it all and sensing it. It's sensing there's an area which should be complete. There's no information in there. And it's providing it all back to our interface on sort of apps and things like that on our mobile phones, so easy to use. Moving this on then, because we spend in real estate most of our money after we finish construction, which I think most of those people who are not in real estate are surprised about. But we spend more money in maintaining, upgrading, and replenishing our buildings once they've failed than we do in actually constructing them in the first instance. So, although that diagram is quite complicated in terms of digital asset lifecycle, all I'm trying to demonstrate from it is that if you've got all of the information about your building, you can maintain it much better. If you have real-time data coming in, you can do predictive maintenance rather than wait for something to go wrong. And so this next model probably simplifies it a little bit more in terms of how the two sides of the process, the one creating the asset and the other one maintaining the asset, actually work. In the first one, we go through the planning, the design and delivery. In the second one, the operating and maintenance, and then ultimately replacement or enhancement. And that just model represents how those two things there come together. So we moved from the auto-suggest to the augment to the automate. And when we get to the automate part of the process, this is when we become really efficient in the maintenance of our buildings. And not just buildings, I mean, it applies equally to infrastructure. We're doing a lot of work on MRTs with airports in terms of the predictive maintenance of all of that. That then brings me on to what we're doing in terms of our short-term impact priorities, because as the expression goes, if you want to eat an elephant, you've got to take it one spoon at a time, and I think this is a massive problem to crack. So we try to break it down, and we've broken it down effectively into sort of 16 areas that we're focusing on. And once we have all of these parts together, I think then we'll be able to join them up as a truly smart, and we talked about the word smart a couple of times this morning when we've been meeting, but to me this idea of a smart way of delivering things better than we have done before. So our short-term priorities, first one is sort of around brief development. We need to brief our buildings better. It all starts in having a clear idea of what we're creating and looking at outputs rather than inputs. I always give the example of the automotive industry because a colleague of mine worked in it, and he was explaining how they got paid. They got paid for what they put into cars, which he described them as surprise and delight toys. So we all might know this: when you press the ashtray and it comes out slowly on a nice coil spring, those are the surprise and delight toys. So they got paid not for the number of ashtrays they supplied, but for the number of cars that came off the end of the production line, because they knew that every one of those cars had 2 of his ashtrays in them. And therefore, if we could move to a construction industry which gets paid or rewarded for its output rather than its input, we'll all be working for one common objective. Justifying design and creating efficiency in design. So really this is looking at the sort of DNA for buildings. It always interests me that actually some of the most durable buildings are some of our oldest buildings. Certainly in the UK, if you go to ports and docks, you see the old brick structures with punched windows. And people talk about flexible buildings, but the amazing thing about those buildings is they have become very flexible buildings. So using very sustainable materials, very durable materials, and being able to adapt them many, many times, to me, is sustainability. Auto-generative design patterns, so this is looking at optimizing things by looking at off-site manufacturing. We already see that. We already see bathroom pods. We see lots of components being made off-site and being brought together we need to continue that journey and remove more and more off-site. In fact, as someone once said to me, you will know you've got this right if the only rubbish that you throw away on site is the protective film and coatings. And if we could get to a stage where we just assemble things on site and remove the protective covering from them and the building is finished, it would be great. Whole life cost analysis, something we're very much driving is getting people to focus on the finished product, not just the capital cost of constructing it. A virtual assistant is all very well having this technology, but I'm sure we've all suffered from the remote control syndrome, where we've got a television, a VCR, they're all very, very smart, but unfortunately we're not. And so therefore having something that can interface with all of this technology is going to be vitally important. Safety on site is paramount, and actually we in the UK have made vast improvements in our safety record, driven partly by our CDM regulations, but partly by being able to collect the statistics, looking at design in safer ways, being able to model things so that you can clearly see how components come together and how it's built. Much more efficiency in procurement. Our model for delivery has broken. We've seen companies like Interserve, massive companies, cannot take the risks in the size and scale of projects we're delivering today. We've got to look at a new model of how we deliver and how we share the risk of developing our built environment. An open data platform where we can share information. Most shopping channels, you can find the price of anything. If the price of all of our construction products were known, the BIM model we can harvest quantities from. If you apply the rates to the quantities, you get the price of the building. The contractors can put their labour elements to those, and we have a model whereby the whole construction cycle comes together, and we remove the fragmentation from it by an open data source where people can bid for things where they've got the resource available, not simply where they're trying to compete on price. Task versus actual, again, sort of some of that monitoring technology in terms of using that and tracking that is really important. We understand where we are on projects. Field-based operations, automated logistics, planning for assets, parts, people, equipment, how do you bring them all together? That supply chain part of it, getting things there on time when they need them. Just in time, JIT, J-I-T, is something that the automotive industry had probably 40 years ago, we can't seem to land our materials on site on the day we want them. They're usually 2 weeks late, stuck somewhere in transit. We've not got the clearance done. We need to get better. Again, systems analysis, we're very much around sort of dashboard reporting. You saw some of the things in the video clips there. If there's a client, you could pull out your mobile phone and you can see the progress of your building. You don't need lots of reports on things that are going well. You can just simply look at the areas where there's stress and focus your efforts on those. How much better would it be? Digital twin, we talked a little bit about that, and I'm sure others will come onto it, but we're putting a lot of effort into developing our ability in creating digital twins. You've got to do it where it's appropriate. It's quite expensive at the moment. When that becomes a technology that everyone can afford, then I think we will really start to see some incredible moves forward in what we do in construction. Intelligent assets, again, we've talked about. These are assets which can detect what the state of the room is, adjust lighting, adjust heating, cooling all accordingly. And then, sort of risk analysis and mitigation. A lot of our big construction projects fail because we've not correctly assessed the risks. And underpinning all of this, in the light blue text at the bottom of all of those boxes, is the technology, the digital that we're using to enable it. But as I said at the start, I see the digital as the enabler for all of that. So just to wrap up, so I don't go over time, I just try and draw all that together in a short video clip which was put together by our young talent under our chairman's group, just in their view of where we are and where we're heading. Thank you.
큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
I think we have some time for questions. Is that correct? Or at the end?
Yeah, probably at the end.
Okay.
The next is we are going to have appreciation ceremony. Please come Hyun-Soo Lee, co-representative of Construction Vision Forum. Mark, please come to the front. Flag of appreciation, Mark, Richard, Turner, and Townsend. This is to express our sincere appreciation for your inspiring and enlightening presentation on the construction industry that is often described as broken, what will fix it, and what could the future look like at the 2019 International Seminar in Seoul, South Korea, hosted by the Construction Vision Forum and Construction Excellence. September 25th, 2019, Construction Vision Forum co-chairman Hyun-Soo Lee, Sang-ho Lee, Chan-geun Han. Construction Excellence International Managing Director Don Wall. Please give the big applause. Okay, we can have our next keynote speech by Ricky Tsui, the R&D Director of Arab. He will talk about how digitalization works. Please give the big applause to Ricky. 네, 간단하게 소개하겠습니다. 리키 튜스는 R&D 디렉터이고 현재 아랍에 근무하고 있습니다. 홍콩 대학에서 공부하고 캠브리지 대학에서 박사학위를 받은 후에 첨단 기술, 디지털라이제이션과 관련된 연구를 진행하고 있습니다. 오늘 다양한 디지털 기술이 어떻게 건설 산업을 혁신하고 생산성을 높이는지에 대해서 발표할 예정입니다. 큰 박수로 맞이해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here to share, first of all, our digital transformation experience, and secondly, about the direction we think that our industry should head to in this digital world. Thank you again to the Construction Vision Forum and CE for the invitation. It's my great honor to be here to share our experience to you. Let me start by briefly introduce our company first, so that you know what we are doing. Now, Arab is a global engineering consultant firm with over 14,000 employees working in 5 regions around the world. Now, our global headquarters is based in London, and then Hong Kong, in fact, is a headquarters of one of the 5 regions, which is the East Asia region. We have an office here in Seoul, more than 20 years, and our office leader is here, Steve Yun. Below here is some examples of what we have done in the past, some of the key projects. Our strength is, of course, to provide total design across different disciplines, offering an optimal solution to our clients. It's not simply just the best is one area, but we want to achieve excellency in the overall performance. Now, we have more than 40 skill sets within our company, ranging from structure, MEP, facade, the sustainability, geotechnics, railway, highway, bridges, keep going on. So that's why we can be a one-stop shop for our clients. Now, this is a very brief introduction to our company. The next one, I want to spend some time to share with you the history of some part of the digital developments that we have for the past 10 years that actually reflect the changing needs from the industry. Now, more than 10 years ago, we started to design in 3D environment because we recognize the benefits for that, especially, for example, like dealing with this complex building geometry. Like this one, the bird nest in Beijing. We did that like more than 10 years ago. But those days, the deployments of BIM pretty much fragmented. It's probably limited to only one or two disciplines only. Namely, here is the structure. Now, thereafter, we've got this project, which is the Hong Kong Sludge Treatment Facility. Now, at that time, I can share with you the scope of work for the deployment of BIM from our contract, driven by the clients, only consists of half a page only. So meaning that actually the clients, they didn't know what to expect from the deployment of BIM. But we think that we should actually start from the very beginning to use BIM in this project. Of course, learned a lot and overcame many challenges. This is an example of the case in the project. And we found out that, in fact, BIM could help better coordinate, especially the design in such a congested environment. That could facilitate the actual construction work. I can immediately give you two good advantages that we design in 3D environments. The first one is to, of course, visualize all the complex information. You want to look at this side and not that side, right? And that can actually help us to do, for example, like effective clash detection at a very basic. The second one is to how to validate the maintainability of all our related facilities, leaving enough room for the maintenance work to do. This is the overall BIM model that consists every single disciplines within that model. And that's including like structure, MEP, facade, sustainability, geotechnic, all the design and data within one single model, and that could offer us very basic crash detection, then to design and construction coordination, then to the construction process optimization. Now we have one single model to guide the design and the construction for the whole project. Now, thereafter, we extend the use of BIM not only to all the buildings related projects, but also to the infrastructure project. Like this one is a railway project. It's not working, but this is a railway project. We've got the whole file, the whole platform, including the building piles of all the adjacent buildings, as well as all the underground facilities, and including also the railway tunnel within one single model. So one model for design and construction altogether. And of course, with BIM, we can recognize a lot of different advantages that we couldn't have in the past. For example, with BIM combining with VR, we can easily evaluate different traffic management schemes at different stage of construction. And that can help us a lot, to manage the construction process. Now, so far I've mentioned that the deployments of BIM and GIS for design and construction. Now, a few years ago, we were asked to look into facility management. This is an example. We did the design for this one, which is the water cube in Beijing. We had the BIM model. But 2 years ago, we were asked to design a digital model to optimize the performance. So you can see, we combine BIM and IoT together, and the whole platform can be used for asset management. And apart from that, that platform allows the operation can be run in the more effective way. And that platform can be accessed through the portable devices. Now, so far, I've mentioned that, in fact, a lot of examples driven by the industry. And we'll see that we are, in fact, under the pull and the push effects to undergo digital revolution. Now, with all these technologies here, super powers, computers, big data, machine learning, 5Gs. Our clients actually forcing us to adopt this kind of technology to give them better insights and outcome. Now, at the same time, internally, we are pushed by the market to be more effective and also maintain good quality delivery. A lot of people mention that, well, Industry 4.0, that's actually from the manufacturing point of view, and quite a number of countries at the moment undergoing what I call it Construction 2.0 only. So clearly, we are lagging behind, but from the other angle, we've got a lot of opportunities coming up for us. Now, we understand that the change is not a question, it's a must. And how to drive or initiate all the changes from a company point of view or from an industry point of view. Below, I want to share with you how we drive the digital transformation process in the company that may reflect some needs, how the industry can go forward for that. We have that digital transformation plan produced like 2 years ago to drive all this transformation process. Our strategies are, first of all, to upgrade and upkeep our digital platform, IT platform first, such that we can, for example, like deliver a cloud-based solution. And then we want to have all our internal design and operation process automated, fully automated. Then combining with all the digital technologies with the traditional offering, we can provide added value services. Thereafter, we want to look at all the repetitive offerings. Can we turn it into standardized products? And ultimately, we want our business to be data-driven. Now, in order to do so, we need to have a digital transformation program to do so, to execute, engage with the stakeholder. Now, below, I want to share with you how actually Arup performed the digital transformation process. Practical experience. First of all, we launched that digital transformation campaign 2 years ago with the think tank to drive the developments, and I'm the member of that, and to drive all this development across different offices in this region. Now we have a team of pioneers, I call it Walk Band, to help us to promote that loudly. And also we try to engage with our enthusiastic colleagues in different ways. Now, from all this strategy, we come up with 4 programs. The first one is cultural change, and then automation, new services and products, and then the innovation ecosystem. And I'm going to go through that one by one. For cultural change, we believe that we need a place to gather together all our colleagues to learn, to communicate, to experience, to explore different digital technologies. So I set this up, which is the digital den in our office. I launched 2 series of key activities. The first one is called Just Den, which is a weekly activity after work, and I invite many different companies with the latest digital technologies to showcase, usually over a bottle of beer. And also, another series is Transform, which is a monthly event against after work. I invite keynote speakers with good digital transformation experience to come and share with us more on strategies. So these 2 series, in fact, have been running for more than 1 year. And starting from this year, the individual business teams take the responsibility of arranging all these activities. So starting from the central team, moving outward to all our business teams to take the control of the organization of this event. And then we held also a digital exhibition last year to showcase how we deploy digital technologies within our company. And I asked all our colleagues to invite clients to come and visit us. I regard this as a training opportunities because our colleagues need to know every single technologies first before they can talk to the client. And as I mentioned, we have more than 40 skill sets. In fact, in Arup, we have every skills set, we have one skills network, which is a community to look after that. Now, all these skills networks, in fact, have arranged at least a 2-day workshop together to bring together different practitioners in that particular disciplines. For example, here is fire engineering. Come together, define the plans to drive the change. We are operating in a matrix system, so individual business teams and offices, we deliver at least 2 innovation workshops, engage with them, allowing them to think of new products and new services that can add value to them. Every 6 months, we bring a group of our pioneers from different offices together to go through these innovation labs, which is a 4-day program. The workshop contents include like UX, design thinking, proposal pitching, as well as knowing how to deploy the latest technologies. Of course, we recognize that training is very important, and that's why we set up a new training center called Innovation Studio. We equip with a lot of powerful computers and software. Now, these are some of the programs that we offer. We tailor-made a training series, especially for young colleagues and graduates to go through this. This is more on the design automation, and we also have other training, for example, related to VR, machine learning, deployments of cloud-based solution. And now the second program I mentioned is about automation. We want to harvest, first of all the design workflow first within the company and trying to optimize using design thinking. Now, with a lot of consultation workshop, we come up with more than hundreds of workflow, stored in our database. That's not enough because our colleagues are very busy. We designed a secondment program to take them out of the daily project works, second to a central team, digital design team, so that they can focus to automate their workflow. Now, after the secondment program, they will go back to the individual teams becoming ambassadors for automation. And we produce also a video clip for every automated workflow and put it in our knowledge management system, the media space, to help our colleagues from other offices to adopt and change. This one is the Digital Acceleration Hub that is a very key, important element of our program. Now, we know that training is important for our colleagues, but also we need a team of professional programmers as well as digital experts. So I set up a Digital Acceleration Hub last year in August. Now, I select to set it up in a place called Nanshan in China, which is regarded as a Silicon Valley of the southern part of China, with a lot of digital tech giants located there. Now, for the working environments, I would say it's quite nice and helping us, in fact, to attract talents to come and work with us. Now, that Digital Acceleration Hub, in fact, we can provide digital solution design, coding, digital technology, as well as having a coordinator to drive the business developments and partnerships. Our aim is really to integrate the digital skills together with our domain knowledge to come up with new businesses and solutions. We want to provide all-round support to accelerate our transformation process. And we want to support programming for automation and also data-centric services. And also we want to develop good digital products and services by this Digital Acceleration Hub. In addition, we want to set up a good innovation ecosystem with surrounding company for collaboration. Now, I have talked a lot about our internal setup or organization structure for change. Now, through a lot of different campaigns and programs, I want to show you the latest outcomes that we achieved so far, as well as the direction that we are pursuing. The first section is about the digital products and services that evolved during the past few years. So far, for design, we focus mainly from the point of view like structure or building surfaces. Now, structure is similar to your skeleton in your body. Then the building surfaces similar to your blood circulation system. And your heart is your palm room. And your lungs is actually the area where you get the fresh air as well as for exhaust. But then I'm missing the brain actually, helping us to ensure all the operation of your body running properly and how to respond to the external changing environments. Now with that, we also designed a digital platform called Neuron platform for our building to optimize the operation based on BIM as well as the AI. So Neuron is the brain of the building.
Buildings account for 90% of energy consumption in Hong Kong. A very large portion of that goes to air conditioning. Building automation and management system have been around for some time, but it's mainly focusing on monitoring and fixing us if anything goes wrong. We can achieve more if we have a central analytic platform. That's why we developed Neuron, a digital platform enabled by IoT and AI.
Through the use of AI and big data technology, it analyzes the real-time building data generated from various building systems and provide us the insight of the building performance. It captures data from various sources and serves a single data platform for smart building. By learning the historical data with machine learning, it helps us to predict the building performance with optimized setting.
Based on this prediction, building management system can adjust automatically to achieve better energy saving and building performance. With the full implementation of Neurons, up to 30% energy can be saved for a typical existing commercial buildings. And now we put Neurons into real scenarios to explore its possibility.
One Taikoo Place is our latest triple grade A office building development in Taikoo Place area. We build One Taikoo Place to the highest standard, and also we would like to deliver the best value to our tenant. So we implement Neuron developed by our for a new model of smart building operation. Neuron system is a simple and fully flexible digital visualization tools for energy monitoring and optimization. The real-time performance data can be accessed anywhere within Taikoo Swire complex. This system fully integrates with a BIM model. This allows us to take the BIM model further to facility management for the better building operation and maintenance. By adopting Neuron system, One Taikoo Place now become the Hong Kong first AI embedded smart building.
Now the same for cities. In a city, we've got a lot of physical infrastructures, and that we need a city brain to optimize all the performance. So hence come to the Neuron City, developed by Arab. Apart from BIM, we include also the GIS with IoT together, with the normal function, usual function of BIM, maintainability, and, to do all this preventive maintenance. And sorry that this is in Chinese, but I will explain to you. Then we can have real-time display also, for example, like this case, car park vacancy, the traffic condition in different roads. And then also we can perform like visual analysis for any new properties development. And we can showcase the taxi availability in different time of the day. And we can also integrate our interactive urban planning tools in it. And we can change different parameters to understand whether the development would be optimal. And also we can showcase all our, for example, like environmental modeling data into this platform. So you can see that, in fact, this platform become the brain of our city, not city, it's smart city for the future. Now, similarly, another example, Neuron Bridge. performing similar function. And you can see in the past we are dealing more on design and construction, but later on more on facility management. And I can foresee in the future that we are moving into the whole life cycle for every infrastructure project or building project. That would lead also to the deployments of what we call it sustainable development goals and the circular economy in a lot of our projects in the future. That will be our ultimate aims. Now, in the next section, I would like to talk about the applications of the machine learnings in our project to provide added values. First of all, this one is as a land use classifier. We use a machine learning model to analyze a lot of different satellite images to help us to identify different land use for our urban planning as well as flood management projects. Now, that can help us to save a lot of time as well as improve our efficiency. Similarly, this one, we deploy a machine learning model to analyze the change in different parameters, for example, like soil type, rainfall, and as well as water level of the river for 3 locations upstream to predict the water level for a location downstream. That can help us to give out like early warning signal for any flooding that might happen to improve our city's resilience. Now the next one, again, deploy machine learning model to try to capture the type of vehicles passing through a road section. That can help us to increase the efficiency of getting all those important data for our traffic management projects. Another one, which is the tunnel crack inspection tools that provide us a very accurate and quick model for tunnel inspection and maintenance, all driven by machine learning. Now, you can see that machine learning or AI will become a very common tools for us in the future in our construction and building industry. Now, in the 2 sections below, the first one will be on design, the second one will be on construction, to touch up on what we think and what we have applied so far. The first one is the design and visualization. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of fast-track project in Asia. Now, we might have a project allowing us for 6 years to complete in, let's say, Europe. Then in Asia, we probably have 4 years only. So that means our design needs to be modified quickly according to the changes initiated by our clients or by the architects. Now, this is a project we delivered this year in Beijing, Z15, and you can see all the design stages of the whole process are linked together seamlessly by all the automated processes. Then we apply parametric design automation and design automation and optimization to actually explore different design options and to allow us to look at lots of different possibilities within a very short period of time. And by doing so, of course, we save a lot for our clients in terms of cost, and they, of course, happy to do so. And the next one showcases about sometimes we face the problem of the lack of BIM model when we are dealing with existing infrastructure or buildings. Now here, we can do a quick 3D scanning and then turn this 3D scan, the point clouds into BIM model. Now this is a portable 3D scanners that we use to obtain a digital model for a tunnel. Again, it's the same, we can use the same portable 3D scanner to scan the existing building. If we want to have more accurate data, then we can use non-portable scanner and actually going through the same process, scanning, turning the point cloud into the BIM model. And then by adding different information to the related elements, this model is ready for, let's say, asset management. For getting the digital model for bigger areas, then we can deploy drones to do so. We have been using drones for 5 years to, for example, like doing the land surveying for our urban planning project. So this is very common right now in Asia. Of course, drones can have other applications. Here, we deploy drones for facade inspection. Now, to better help about the visualization, we can deploy VR. Of course, this is a mass transit railway station. We utilize the VR to convey different design. We can select different disciplines to showcase, and of course, can be accessible through different portable devices. Against the dynamic information, we can showcase, of course, using VR. And this is a case of CFD, computational fluid dynamic analysis for microclimate effects of a proposed new property development in densely populated areas in Hong Kong. So we can utilize VR to showcase. The next part is about construction. I want to take out is more on the digital fabrication. In this project, we utilize 3D printing of cement-based materials to produce a visitor center in a village in China. We are still keep on monitoring the performance and a change in the parameters in the long run. And in the next phase, what we want to do is to utilize the local-based materials for 3D printing. Metal printing, this is the scenario and the components that we want to print. And we produce the first version by welding. And thereafter, we deploy 3D printing to reduce the material use. And you can see towards the end, there's a lot of material saving by doing so. Of course, we save the materials, but we maintain the same performance for that metal part. And this is how we do the analysis through computational modeling to analyze different design options. And last year, we also worked together with a number of partners to conduct 3D printing for metal bridge to be installed on a canal in Amsterdam. Right. This year, we were involved also considering deploying 3D printing on Mars. And we won a NASA competition this year. It's a funny thing that supported by our research work anyway. Now, we know that 3D printing is really good, in fact, to produce irregular shaped components. But then to another end, we want to standardize all the components. Then in order, for example, like doing all the work and then stacking up become the buildings, then this one, which is the modular integrated construction, will come into play. We have done a lot of MIC projects around the world, but this one is a demonstration project for the Construction Industry Council in Hong Kong. By stacking up like a cargo type of components together to form the buildings. Now you can see a lot of different components or compartments can be fabricated in the factory before they transfer to the site, and then they stack that up together to form the building. And you can see by doing so, we can improve or maintain our quality as well as removing a lot of on-site work. Now, in the future, what we can see is a mixture, a hybrid type of construction process, meaning that for standardized components, that can be done through modular integrated construction. Now, for very complicated geometry-like components, that can be done by 3D printing. So a combination of 3D printing and MIC together. Now, so far I've mentioning the digital transformation process, but one thing the corporate university within Arup, which is called Arup University, did actually play a very significant part that I want to mention. In the transformation process, we probably need some team to help us to drive this forward. Now, three functions in our Arab university actually help a lot, actively support the process, and they are the foresight, research, and learning. Now, foresight team keep an eye on the emerging technologies, always exploring, the new application of technologies in a company, and publish a lot of different reports. Like, for example, here, how we deploy blockchain in our industry. So all these reports are available in our intranet to download. And they, of course, not only looking at digital, they also interested in other areas as shown here. And back to the digital, they keep an eye on very, very closely with the hype cycle for emerging technologies. And we want to keep track on what the maturity of different technologies at different stage, such that we are ready to deploy them in our projects. The next function is about research. This is our research agenda to drive our research works within Arab. That's being updated every 3 to 4 years. And this is the topics that we are interested in for the coming few years, and they are cities, emerging technologies, circular economies, and digital. Now, under each topic, they have a lot of different subtopics for us to consider. In this agenda, we have more than 200 research topics in mind, and every year we have about 2% of our profit spent on research. Now, 50% of the research budget actually go to digital, and that's how we support our upscaling of our technologies. And every year, we have more than 400 research projects, a lot in collaboration with universities. The last one, but not least, is our learning platform. We collaborate with different universities to come up with like 1-year master modules, allow our colleagues actually prepare themselves better for the future needs of the company. Now with that, in fact, I can summarize. We see that we are facing great challenges of our industry from digital revolution. And we all know that we need to change. Although we know that we are slow comparing with the manufacturing industry, but we've got a lot of opportunities there. And to drive changes, we need to have a good digital transformation plans or strategies. And I use our company, Arab, to showcase what we have done and what we are currently doing. And I'll also show you, for example, how to integrate different digital technologies in our traditional offering to give us some good high value added products and services. So with that, the end of my presentation. Thank you.
So we can have a flag appreciation ceremony. Please come to Sang-ho Lee, the co-chairman of Construction Vision Forum. 원장님 앞으로. Flag of appreciation, Licky to see Arab. This is to express our sincere appreciation for your inspiring and enlightening presentation on how digitalization works at the 2019 International Seminar in Seoul, South Korea, hosted by Construction Vision Forum and Construction Excellence. September 25th, 2019, Construction Vision Forum co-chairman Hyun-Soo Lee, Sang-ho Lee, Chan-gun Han, Constructing Excellent International Managing Director Don Watt. Please give the big applause. He will talk about the future of the construction sector in the digital era. Please give the big applause to him.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're well. Thank you to the Construction Vision Forum for your hospitality, for your invitation to this event today, and for the opportunity to co-host with you for this excellent event. I thank you to all the other speakers today for their content, and hopefully I'd like to build on that by showing how the case study of the UK has sought to encourage digital construction and show you what progress has been made so far, show you what the benefits look like, show you what the future may hold. I want to start with where I normally end, actually, and just share with you something which Mark referred to in his presentation, which shows for you a vision of what the modern future excellence in the construction sector should look like. And it's based on some data which was originally produced by our other speaker's company, Arup, who did some desktop research in the late 1990s, looking at the cost of office buildings in London. And if they would cost 1 million to build, for every million they would cost to build, they would cost, over 20 years, they would cost 5 million to operate, to maintain. The costs of fuel, light and power, the cost of cleaning, the costs of refitting the building every 3 or 4 years, new decorations, new office layouts, what have you. And on the same scale, the cost of the business, the IT, the people in particular, the employees, over 20 years would be 200 million on the same scale. So, and these are very approximate figures, by the way, and these are for London and they're 20 years old. But you could do this for Seoul, you could do this for any building. What's the construction cost? What's the operations cost? What's the business cost? 1, 5, 200. Okay? Now on that scale, there are two other important numbers. One is the value earned. Now in London, in office buildings, we're talking, for example, about the financial sector, banks. The 200, the people costs, the 200, they earn value for the bank of up to 2,000 over 20 years, okay? They bring in big revenue. And the company only occupies that building in order to be able to carry out their business, which is to bring in that revenue. Why else do they need an office building? Okay? So the value to the bank of that office building is in the revenue that it allows them to generate. And it's 2,000. And on the same scale, design is maybe 0.1, 10% of construction cost. Do you agree? Roughly 10%, maybe 20%, but it's a small number. It's 0.1 on my scale. So the ratio of value to design at the front over 20 years could be as high as 20,000 to 1. 2,000 to 0.1. 20,000 to 1, okay? The value of built environment in its use to the client is always in the use of the facility over its lifetime. It is not in the design and construction process. Design and construction is an expensive process and it's a difficult process. But it's not what the client wants to buy. They want to buy the use of the asset over 20 years. And I think you'd probably agree that we spend too much time thinking on the left-hand side about what is quite small numbers, about design and construction. Maybe we could just spend a little bit less. Maybe we could buy this building, instead of for 1, we could save 5%. We say 0.05. Yeah? But every time we save money on the left, every time we reduce money, especially if we do it indiscriminately, if we do it badly, we hack away at the right-hand side. If we spend less on the left, we will achieve less on the right. So the message about value, the message about the quality of built environment, the message about excellence in the construction industry is a message about starting by focusing on the right-hand side. Focus about why do we exist as an industry? Why do any of the companies, any of the people in this room do what we do? We create value by creating great built environment on the right. And then the question is, how well can we integrate the process of operation, construction and design in order to create an efficient value chain, a process, which will give us the value that the client requires. Now, if you don't like the office argument, think about schools. What if we measure outcomes in terms of the quality of education that our children get from schools? And the quality of education is measured on the right-hand side. That's our outcome. The business cost is the cost of the teachers. The operating costs, obviously the cost of facilities management, construction. What if we knew how to spend more money on design to do better construction in order that we would create a better school building which would allow teachers to teach, to do their job better, and would allow children to concentrate better and to study better in order that we got better educational outcomes? Or what if we think about a hospital and we want better healthcare outcomes? What if we knew how to spend better money on design and construction of better hospitals that would give us better healthcare? What would that be worth to society? What would that be worth to governments? Spend a little bit more money up front, or at the very least, spend the same amount of money but spend it well, in order to make sure that you maximize the outcomes that you're going to get from the asset. Now that is a big idea, thinking about the whole life cycle, the whole life value of buildings, instead of only thinking about how do I reduce the cost of design, make construction more efficient. And when we talk about digital facilitating or enabling performance improvement, it is the contribution that digital and all the other aspects that I'll talk about and that have already been covered can make to enabling that flow of value to happen. And if we have an industry that works like this, there's various things need to happen. One is we need to be a much more integrated process. The second is you'll need to be paid as a designer, not just, as was said very specifically, I think by Mark, possibly by Ricky, I apologise. One of you specifically said about the idea of being paid on the output, it was Mark, of being paid on the output, not just for doing a piece of work at the front. So as a designer, instead of just being paid by the hour to do a bit of designing, what if you were paid on the performance of the asset in use? How much more skin in the game would you have if at least some of your payment was going to be based on whether the building works or not? And the same goes for a contractor, a construction company. The same goes for a materials product supplier. The more that people are paid according to the value that the client receives, i.e. paid according to how good the right-hand side is, the more efficient and effective you allow the industry to be, and the more you encourage innovation. As I said, this is a big idea, but this is a vision of excellence that we need all our stakeholders to understand and hopefully then invest in. And by stakeholders, I mean government, clients, the industry itself, and our people. And everything I've described there has either had a social value to it or a monetary value. But if you want the environmental argument, the same applies. If what we care about is the future of our planet, what we care about is the outcome that our planet should be every bit as good as it is today for tomorrow's generations. Focus on the right-hand side and then think about what needs to happen during the design and construction process. Because there is a lot that we can do in design and construction to reduce the harmful impact that buildings have on the planet and to improve, actually, the beneficial impact that good built environment can have on the quality of life and the environment in which we all live. But only if you see it as a holistic system, joined up, integrated system. Let me take a step back from that and explain to you who Constructing Excellence are as the host of today's session. We're a UK-based, not-for-profit research and best practice organisation. We are part of what was the UK government's building research establishment. It was transferred from the government, privatised some 20 years ago, into a charity. So we are owned by a charitable trust. Like Arup, any surplus that we might make from any of our trading activities in materials testing or research or standards or buildings accreditations is reinvested into research and educational activity. And we are, as Constructing Excellence, an example of what some academics will call a triple helix strategy. That is to say, a partnership between government, industry and academia in order to share the best that all of those parties have in order to improve performance in the construction sector. Our history dates back 25 years to efforts where, in the 1990s, to reform UK construction, which was not in a good place. Internationally, and I've left a colleague to run the UK. These days I'm based out of the Middle East in order to run Constructing Excellence International. And we have a alliance of organisations who share our values, who, like us, believe that construction is a great industry, but could be so much more effective and efficient in pursuit of that vision that I set out, if it focused on what it takes to change. And as was said in the introductory speeches, Korea, and particularly the Construction Vision Forum with Hanmiglobal, are the 10th member organisation to join the Constructing Excellence International Alliance. Others are in Hong Kong, Singapore, Scandinavia, Australasia, and the Middle East, where I'm now based to support some of that work. And here we were, only 4 months ago, just up the road, signing the memorandum of understanding with the CVF and Hanmiglobal leadership to confirm that we will work together to support what it is that the Korea construction industry wants to do in terms of pursuing excellence and change. We describe our mission as positively disrupting industry delivery processes to transform performance. That's quite a mouthful, but what we're talking about is industry transformation. And in the context of today's conversation, what we're talking about is using technology and using digital, not just to enable and make more efficient the way we do things today, but to look to digital and technology to completely rethink how we do things and do them in a totally different way in pursuit of that vision of long-term whole-life excellence. IT or technology or digital is an enabler of change, but it's a driver of change at the same time. We pursue a number of strategies, and in discussions with the Construction Vision Forum, who knows how many of these are appropriate, or that we should work together on to support the construction industry here in Korea. But if you were to start at 12 o'clock on the map there, I believe strongly that where you need to start with any process of change is understanding what our current position is. How good is current performance in our construction industry? So we get involved in a lot of benchmarking, we use a lot of key performance indicators to track performance. And I'll show you one or two of those in a minute. And then compared with our current performance, do we have a sense of how good we want it to be or how good we need it to be? You know, is the industry doing as good as its job as we need it to be? Is everybody happy? In which case, don't worry, we'll all go home. It's absolutely fine. Please carry on. Or is there a sense that we could do so much better? Is there a sense that we ought to be delivering our projects faster, cheaper, or safer, or with better quality? And we then pursue a number of activities which fit well with a university and government partnership, where you have the universities able to bring research and teaching skills to support a programme which is based around an agenda which the industry identifies as one which they want to work to improve their own performance, to improve their own businesses, to improve their own profitability by improving the value for money that they deliver for their clients. Data is at the heart of this process, therefore, from tracking what the industry is doing to tracking individual performance on projects. And we've been tracking project performance in the UK for 20 years now, since these reports that I mentioned in the 1990s. And the sorts of measure, by tracking performance over 20 years, we start to have quite nice charts like this that allow us to show how the industry is doing. So this particular slide is demonstrating our performance on safety by measuring accident incident rate on UK construction sites since 1999. And over 20 years, we've improved our accident rate by 70%. What that means in practice, as a journalist asked us this morning, is whereas 20 years ago, our fatality rate in construction was around 1 person per 10,000 died on a UK construction site every year. 1 in 10,000. According to the journalist this morning, that is the rate in Korea today. Our rate today is 0.2. We didn't get there by accident. We looked at that and we said, is it acceptable that 130 people died on UK construction sites in 1999? No. It is never acceptable for a single person to die on a construction site. And until we are an industry which doesn't kill anybody, does not hurt anybody, does not affect the mental well-being of anybody in our industry, we have a problem. Any industry has a problem. Any human being has a right to go to work and expect to come home healthy in the evening. So we've worked through a partnership of government with the industry. Our Deputy Prime Minister called a summit of the big construction companies in 1999, and together they pledged that they would lead, through personal leadership from the top, companies would drive a culture of safety into all the operations of all their construction businesses. That is not enough. Leadership by itself is vital, absolutely important. They put safety number 1 on the agenda. Now that is a really easy thing to say in the English language. But what that means is put safety number 1 on the agenda. Every single meeting starts with safety at the top of the agenda. It is the first thing discussed in every meeting on every project. That means that safety is the first thing that people think about. It means that it's the first thing that people plan to do something about on every project. The other thing that government did was to introduce legislation to require something called the Construction Design and Management Regulations, to require that safety on the construction site is properly thought about and considered during the design process, and that there are key individuals responsible for safety during the design and then during the construction process. Now, this legislation has moved on and matured. The government also introduced legislation for corporate manslaughter. So if, as a company, you are found responsible for having put someone at risk which led to them dying, then actually you're personally liable as a company. So there is a big stick approach here, as well as a leadership and, to some extent, a carrot approach. The government also improved enforcement of safety on sites. So I hope you can see from that it takes a number of aspects to get a strategy which will improve safety on construction sites. But it's essential. It's the starting point. If we're not looking after our people, then we're not really entitled to be in business. Other measures, we measure things like, do projects deliver on budget? Do projects deliver on time? We've seen a less obvious and less dramatic improvement, but we've got project predictability up from 50% to 65%. That means that when you sign a contract for construction, previously we had a 50-50 chance only that the sum of money in the contract was the sum of money the client would pay. Think about buying anything else. Think about buying a car for a minute. When you sign a contract, do you think that's the amount of money you're going to pay? Do you know what you're going to get, and do you think that's the amount of money you're going to pay? Yes. You would be really cross if that car company came back and said, oh, sorry, it's overrun. It'll be late. Well, yeah, that does happen, actually. But it'll cost you a bit more. Oh, and it's not going to be quite as good as you thought it was going to be. Sorry about that. We wouldn't buy a car like that. You wouldn't accept it. You would never buy a car from that company again. But construction, in the UK 20 years ago, you could toss a coin whether you would get it on time or not. You could toss a coin, a 50-50 chance, whether it would be on budget. Sorry, but that's not very good. So not only were we killing people, we weren't even giving the customer any confidence that we were going to give them a decent project, a project on cost, a project on time. Now, we've only got it up to 2/3. We have improved it. It's still a long way to go. Digital has been part of this, but the fourth industrial revolution, hopefully, will be part of getting us to much more repeatable, predictable processes. And it's predictable process which eventually gives you predictable outcomes. Construction waste is another one we can be a little proud of. How did we do that? We taxed landfill. I guess it's the same. So if you're on a construction site and you're generating rubbish because too much material was brought to site and some of it's got to be taken away, we will tax that material from going to landfill. As a result of that, the industry has responded by reducing the amount of waste on construction sites quite substantially. All in all, how we've seen it over the last 20 years is our construction sector is essential. And as I said at the start, the construction industry can do amazing work and transforms education, healthcare, transport, quality of life. But it really needs to do it a lot better than we currently do it. We're running out of people. We don't have enough people. It's really hard for our industry to attract good quality talent, particularly to work on construction sites. We have an aging workforce like everybody else. So, we've got to do something to be an industry which works in a different way. Smarter, as a phrase was used earlier by the troops. And the ambassador, the British ambassador earlier, referred to the industrial strategy. So the latest way in which we look at this in the UK is for the government and industry together to have identified a three-pronged strategy which focuses on digital, manufacturing and performance, the performance being the whole life vision piece. With those targets for improvement, again, that the ambassador referred to in his speech. I see technology is an important enabler and driver of that, and it has started with BIM. It does start with BIM. Has been around a long time. Building information modelling has been around for at least 20-25 years. But as it matures, in particular, as we now regard 3D as just a starting point, a sort of level 0, as just an entry point, we're now moving to ideas such as common data entry and the sort of visualization and stuff that Ricky particularly emphasized. What's getting easier is everybody around the world is coming along on the same journey. So even if you're going to use international supply chains, even if you're going to be working for international clients who have many projects in many different parts of the world, the language, the terminology and the approaches for BIM are going to be the same. And this has been one of the big blockers. As technology develops, the ability of technology to talk to each other, to share data, with each other has been a big challenge in the past. But increasingly, as you've got people using the same conventions and standards and so on, this becomes easier and therefore not a reason to slow up change. You've got the adoption last year, the implementation last year of the ISO. So in our terms, what was a set of British standards is now a set of ISO standards for the use of BIM, and all of UK construction terminologies and standards and client briefings and employer requirement documents and all this stuff is now in the language of an ISO, which would be equally familiar to a Korean contractor as it would be to a Japanese, to a Middle Eastern, Turkish contractor, to an Australian contractor, or a European. That's a massive step forward. So nobody has to argue about what standards we're using here. We're using the ISO standards. The clever thing about the adoption of BIM in the UK was possibly twofold. One is the government is a major client of construction. In the UK, they're responsible for perhaps about a third of all construction is funded by the government, whether that's schools, hospitals, roads, whether it's infrastructure, including using PPP, public-private partnership and other approaches, whether it's social housing. That's a lot of money the government spends. So they're a really important client. They're the biggest single client of the construction sector. Therefore, they can set standards which the industry has to follow. And in 2011, they gave notice that they would mandate the use of BIM. They gave 4 years notice. That's good policy making. We're not going to mandate it tomorrow. We're going to give you time for the industry to get ready, to do training, to invest in IT. But in 4 years' time, if you want to work on a government project, you'll have to use BIM. Go away and get ready. That's good policy making. The other bit that the UK strategy was at the time unique for, and I think, to be fair, other countries have absolutely followed the same approach, was that they emphasised that what was important was for the operator, for the client, to have the digital model for the operation of the building. So they want the as-built model in order that they can do their asset management strategies, their maintenance and repairs regimes, can all have a digital model to work from. So they emphasise the right-hand side of the vision. How you do that as a supplier is up to you. Please follow the standards, but if you want to supply that data through a particular piece of software, you can. But if you want to hand it over in Excel spreadsheets, you can do that if you want to. Why you would do that when there's much better BIM software than that to do it for you is another matter, but, you can. So they haven't prescribed what technology to use. They've just said you must hand over the digital model. That's good. That's what enables innovation, because then there are different ways of doing that. And clever people can think of new, more efficient or value-adding ways of doing that. Taking that strategy, and where this strategy has gone in the UK, is moving from digital to use digital to enable off-site production, or the modular integrated construction as Hong Kong uses it, but off-site and prefabrication in all its forms. So by 2017, our government announced that by 2019, if you wanted to supply public sector construction projects, you would have to use off-site construction techniques to do so. There was a presumption in favour of off-site construction. But again, with 2 years' notice. Not immediate, in 2 years' time. So there is time either for you to open a factory if you want to do that, or to find suppliers who already have a factory with whom you want to partner and collaborate. And this is because we see the future delivery model in the UK as one which is digitally enabled off-site production. Or design for manufacturing and assembly is another term for what we're talking about here. I've already said MIC is another way. Singapore uses a similar term. DFMA, thank you. Thank you. And what we're talking about is why would you ask people to work on construction sites which are dirty, noisy, dangerous, unpredictable, when instead they could do the same type of work in a factory, in a nice protected environment, decent conditions, proper noise control, clean, supported by robots and other automation, with the level of quality that manufacturing process gives you instead of on-site construction. Why would you want to put people on construction sites when you can put them in this type of factory environment? And you need less people, but you pay them more money. Better jobs, better value jobs for people, better quality, faster, by the way, provided there's enough throughput of buildings through that factory. And what you've seen is a big swing in the UK over towards this form of production. And it's still ongoing, but particularly for housing and for schools, where we can be confident that there is a forward pipeline of demand. There is enough of these buildings required that there is confidence in the investment community and in the manufacturers in order to spend money to create these facilities. And if you're coming to the UK as a contractor and thinking of doing business and you want to be in those sectors, either come with a local supplier or a local manufacturer on board, or there are plenty of manufacturers in the UK who can be part of your supply chain to support this type of construction. And wherever you are in the world, I work in the Middle East a lot. I'm working really hard to persuade people in the Middle East, don't ask people to work on construction sites when it's 45 degrees, by the way, 50 degrees centigrade. Why would you work in construction? Lots of people do. Migrant workers come in from India and Pakistan and so on to work. Let's have them in factories. Much safer, much cooler, much more productive, much higher quality. Win, win, win. It's a transformational delivery model for all of those reasons that I've explained. And one final thought on where we're going, and it was being referred to actually, where we're going then with this is creating standards. So creating standard platforms. So just as your car might have the same chassis underneath, but the car could be 3 different models based on the same chassis, so we use a common platform for building types with the same size, the same gauge, the same heights, but it can be different manufacturers working to that platform, working to those standards, which allows for still plenty of competition in the sector, but allows designers to know what the standards are going to be, allows designers to take these standards and use those in the creation of clever, beautiful buildings, which don't at all look like they're prefabricated, standardized, but they are underneath absolutely standardized. The Ambassador referred to our construction sector deal. In support of all of that, what you have is a partnership at the core of which is 3 organisations. One, the Manufacturing Technology Centre, which are the people that know how to make factories more efficient and automated. And clearly, as you move to factory production, this needs to move towards a proper manufactured approach. The Building Research Establishment, ourselves, and something called the Centre for Digital Built Britain at Cambridge University, which is bringing together a lot of the work on digitalisation, covering the sorts of topics that Ricky and Mark were referring to earlier. And again, the Ambassador quoted the figure of £72 million available for consortia of industry and academics working together to do near-market R&D, not long-term R&D that might or might not generate, some commercial application in 20 years' time, but something that is close to market, 2-3 years away, just needs a little extra push. That type of R&D. And if this is your bag, and if you're interested in working in the UK, find UK partners in order to bid for these sorts of programs. Finally, really, to talk about this piece to build on this idea that government is the biggest client of construction, and to emphasise the vital role that the client, full stop, plays in our industry. If the client sets the scene for how a construction project is going to succeed. Certainly in the UK, some of the early decisions that a client makes will fundamentally determine whether that project will be successful. Now, that shouldn't necessarily be the case. Many clients of construction are one-off clients. They'll never work with our industry again. So why is it that they should have to make key decisions when they don't know anything about it? It's like me trying to go and buy a car and starting to tell the manufacturer how to make their car, or me having to employ a designer of a car and an assembler of a car and ask them to come together to make the thing for me. I don't know anything about that. So it's a really tough industry from that point of view, that we do put so much emphasis, and we do need to put so much emphasis on the client, which clearly means that their advisors, the type of upfront advice that they get, is really crucial to success. Because the early decisions they make are to appoint a designer, for example, or a consultant advisor to talk about what's the brief, what do I need, what do my outcomes look like in the long-term objective. And then, why do I think a construction project is necessary at all? And then, hopefully, I make some good appointments early on of some people who will then involve contractors and manufacturers early enough in the process that all in the construction supply chain can contribute to the design process and add value. Because much of the innovation and knowledge about best practice in our industry is with contractors and with manufacturers. They know how their products perform in use. Why do we think that only designers should do design? I put it to you, we want manufacturers and contractors involved in design because it's the design process that determines how easy it will be to build. It's the design process that determines how easy something will be to maintain and to repair. And procurement becomes really important. And in the UK, we've gone down the road of much more collaborative approaches. So we're trying to procure in a way which creates a single integrated team. The Americans would call it integrated project delivery. We would call it collaborative working or integrated collaborative working. And there are different models for this, but essentially it's about appointing the designer and the contractor together with other key suppliers to work as one team. It is not about design, bid, build. And we are the only industry that separates design from construction. Manufacturing would never do that. The assemblers, the installers, and the assemblers and the manufacturers would absolutely be part of the design process. That's how we need it to be in construction. Don't separate the two. It creates a lot of the inefficiencies that follow. In the UK, we've moved just one step on in terms of the vision. We've used the word intelligent client. We also now increasingly use the word capable owner. I won't go into the detail of it, but it's starting from the same point that I started at the start. The whole life outcome, the right-hand side, capable owner. The client, first and foremost, is the person that is going to get the use of the asset for 20 years. And they do need to be capable of being an asset operator and a user for 20 years. They might be a bad client. They might not know how to procure construction, but they must know how it is that built environment is going to help their business. So in terms of digital and innovation and digitally enabled off-site production, when we talk about transformation in UK construction, we're talking about 3 steps. The first is to change the delivery model. We are talking about changing the model to something which is much more digitally enabled, and it is off-site produced. The people that have the power to do that are either the contractors, if they have the power to just go ahead and do off-site, or the client side. And so in the UK, what you've got is the client, the government client has said, we want to change the delivery model, we want it to be digitally enabled off-site, that's therefore is what we're going to get. We're not going to buy anything else. So that's the second point. Change the procurement model. If you want the delivery model to be different, buy it. Buy integrated, collaborative suppliers, teams, who will deliver digital and off-site. Don't buy anything else. And third, what then needs to happen is the industry will have to rethink how it makes its money. Because it will challenge some of the business models out there at the moment if we only buy digital-enabled off-site. And the obvious example, and I can go into this more in the panel if you like, the obvious example is if I am a contractor and my model is a low labour cost on-site delivery model, that's not going to work in an off-site world. So I'm going to have to change my thinking about how I add value and how I do construction work. I'm going to have a modular manufacturer as a partner, for example, which I haven't had before. These are different business models. As I mentioned earlier, consultants having skin in the game, architects needing, and architects being paid partly on whether their building works for 20 years. Most architects in this room have not been paid that way before. Most architects finish the job along with the contractor, hand it over to the client and walk away. There's a bit of insurance liability involved, but generally they'll walk away. And actually I suggest that many architects in this room don't know whether your buildings work, because you never went back and found out. Because actually there's nothing in the process that allows you to do that. But if you don't know if your buildings work, how are you going to improve the next design you do? And by the way, the same goes for contractors. Unless you have skin in the game on the right-hand side. I hope that's been of some interest. I greatly look forward to working with the Construction Vision Forum to develop some of these ideas in line with your own strategies. So, in the meantime, thank you very much for the invitation to speak. Thank you.
Okay, we can have a flag appreciation ceremony. Please come to Changon Han at the front.
Thank you.
The flag of appreciation. Downward, Constructing Excellent International. This is to express our sincere appreciation for your inspiring, enlightening presentation on the future of construction sector in the digital era at the 2019 International Seminar in Seoul, South Korea, hosted by the Construction Vision Forum and Constructing Excellence. September 25th, 2019, Construction Vision Forum Co-Chairman Hyun-Sul Lee, Sang-ho Lee, Chan-gun Han, Constructing Excellent International Managing Director Don Walt. So we can have a panel discussion. Please come to the Han-Soo Kim, the professor from Sejong University. He will be the moderator for this panel discussion. 저희 패널 디스커션이 있겠습니다. 기본적으로 세 분의 발표자와 그 모더레이터로 세종대학교 김한수 교수님께서 진행을 하도록 하겠습니다.